and he made it available to men. But one of the other things that you went into here in your attack on Calvinism, and you didn't say Calvinists weren't Christians, but you basically, towards the end of your second video, were right on that road. You start talking about the elect, this private club of the elect, like we're sitting around the Calvinists and enjoying our elect status and giving snide remarks to the people who are just not elect. I mean, that's just a gross misinterpretation, a misrepresentation, I should say, of Calvinism, and it's an offensive one. If you look at history, if you look at, just look at any of the Calvin. Take your guy that you're attacking the most, Paul Washer. That guy's out there witnessing to people. Are you? I don't know. I don't know you, but I know that I've seen videos of Paul Washer witnessing to people, evangelizing, preaching the gospel. But he's not preaching a watered down gospel. He's preaching the true gospel, which is found in Scripture. And he knows that, like Paul, he's not ashamed of the gospel, because it is the power of God unto salvation for those who are believing the gospel. So if you want to attack him, well, make sure you know what you're attacking him for, because you make it sound like he's. If I didn't know, if I had never seen a video from Paul Washer, I would be thinking he was a terrible guy listening to you. Luckily, I've seen his videos, and I know that what you're saying is actually a out of character attack on him, and you don't have any facts. I mean, you didn't quote Paul Washer on anything. I know every video that you've probably seen, because I've probably seen it. But if you could be a little more specific on some of the things that you have, that'd be fine. But I really don't think that that's even prudent or necessary, because anybody who is honest, when they see Paul Washer, they see that he's passionate about people knowing the truth. And there's many warnings in the Bible. You make it sound as if no one in the Bible ever asked you to examine yourself to make sure you really are saved. You act like the book of James wasn't written. You act like in James, James didn't say, you say you have faith, well, show me your faith without your works, and I'll show you my faith by my works. Faith is not the absence of works. Okay, faith, it's like two sides to the same coin. You can't have faith without works. It's the natural outspring. It comes from faith. True faith is works. That's what Paul and Paul and James both used Abraham as an example. Now, Abraham was justified by his faith. By his faith alone. It was faith alone that justified Abraham. But as the reformers always have said, it's faith alone that saves, but a faith that saves is never alone. Later on, it was in chapter 15 of Genesis that Abraham had this encounter and heard the promises and believed the promises, and it was counted to him or imputed on him for righteousness. That moment he was declared righteous before God. And then in Genesis 22, God tells Abraham, okay, now great. Now what I want you to do is sacrifice your son to me. That same son that I promised would be the heir, and through I would make all my promises, I want you to sacrifice him to me. Now Abraham went, and would it not have been for God stopping him, he would have did it. He would have sacrificed his son. And that's when James steps in and says, well, now see, that faith that Abraham had in Genesis 15 manifested itself in his works, which was offering Isaac up on the altar. And so you can see how faith is perfected by works. It is complete with works. Now, imagine if Abraham, God said that, and Abraham goes, well, I can't do that because, you promised that my son would be the heir, and the promise of the seed would be through Isaac, and Lord, you said, and Isaac shall my seed be called. So, and he didn't follow through, and he disobeyed God. Well, then, did he really believe God? Did he really believe him? That's the thing. That's what James is talking about, and that's what Paul Washer's talking about. You say, oh, well, don't give me any answers about fruit. Well, then I guess you don't want a biblical answer, because you cannot answer the question without talking about fruit. If you want to talk about salvation, you need to talk about the evidence of salvation. There is evidence of salvation. Does that mean that because somebody has works, they're definitely saved? No. No Calvinist is going to pass judgment on somebody and say, well, you're definitely saved or you're definitely not saved, because that's not biblical. That's why Paul Washer doesn't have altar calls, because what the altar call does is and again, this is the altar call is only something that's been being used for the last 50 or 60 years. Billy Graham really made it popular. And speaking of Billy Graham, he also, towards the end of his life, says, well, there's more than, Jesus Christ isn't the only way to be saved. And you can see where his doctrines led him to a final... because the Arminian teaching will ultimately lead to a wide road of salvation. And here's what I mean. And I'm going to sidetrack a little bit onto this point. Here's what it means. When an Arminian, somebody who believes that everybody has the same opportunity to be saved, they feel like God owes it to everyone an opportunity. They feel like God owes everybody an opportunity for this message. And on the surface, it sounds very noble and very, very good. Yeah, it makes sense. God should want everyone to be saved. But there's problems with that thinking. And I'll tell you, this is why it leads to universal salvation, where Jesus can't be the only way in your viewpoint, and in the Arminian's viewpoint, even though you would never say that. You have to reach that conclusion because there are many people who, since the birth and life and death and resurrection of Jesus Christ, have never even heard of him. How do you answer that one? So what? So how is God going to treat that person whom never even had a chance to hear there are people right now in this world who have never heard the gospel. Now, under your system of theology, you must think, if you're consistent, eventually you're going to have to reach a point where you say, well, God in his infinite mercy, and he's got to give them a chance somehow. Maybe he's just going to judge them based on what they knew. Maybe he's going to give them an opportunity based on just, they didn't get the chance to hear about Jesus. So, they're going to have to, somehow God's going to make a way for them to understand. Well, now you're outside of the Bible. And now, like I said, I don't want to be building straw men here, but if you just logically follow, and again, I'm using the example of Billy Graham, who was Arminian, and he felt that everyone, could be saved, and so towards the end of his life, and I believe he passed away. I'm sorry, I don't know, but I've seen the video where he was in an interview. And asked directly, so is Jesus the only way someone can be saved? And he says, well, no, and you can go on YouTube and look it up for yourself. Just type in Billy Graham, and the video will pop up. And he basically says no. And then one of the guys that's interviewing him says, wow, is that so great to hear you say that, because there's a wide road, a wide acceptance, a wideness to God's mercy. And I was blown away when I saw it. But again, that is the effect of Arminian. Now, how would a Calvinist answer that question? Well, what about the people who just have not heard of Jesus Christ? They're not elect. That's how we answer it. Now, you don't like that answer, but it's biblical, and it makes perfect sense. And